Two officers come under fire after a traffic stop turns into a raging gunfight.
As I was firing through my windshield, I couldn't hear any of my rounds coming out. I couldn't hear any of his rounds coming towards us. Everything seemed like it was in slow motion.
March 10, 2013. Officer Brandon Savage and his trainee, Officer Erin Thomas, are finishing up their shift in Middlefield, Ohio, a small farming community 45 miles east of Cleveland.
We were just driving around the village, trying to make some traffic stops. As we were heading down North State Street, coming up to the intersection, I observed a green car come through the stop sign without making a complete stop. We made a U-turn in the middle of the intersection there and went after him, lights and sirens, to initiate a traffic stop on him for the violation. When the vehicle was coming to a slow stop and continued to move slowly, it did raise the hairs on the back of my neck a little bit, made me feel uneasy. Before I even knew what was going to happen, I already knew the traffic stop was not going to be good.
While Officers Thomas and Savage are waiting to radio in the call, they notice the man inside the car acting suspiciously.
He was moving around inside of the car way too much to just be looking for his insurance information or driver's license. So I thought he was hiding something. So Sergeant Savage said, "Get out of the car, go talk to this guy, get his information, and I'll call the stop-in when radio traffic clears."
She got out of the passenger side door, went around the back side of the vehicle, and came up on my driver's side door. As Officer Thomas approached my door, the male got out of his vehicle, turned around, and was holding an assault rifle.
The man unloads on the officers with an AK-47.
When he initially got out of the vehicle and started firing on us, I had one leg outside of the vehicle, and I was able to lay across the center console and hide behind the engine block.
I ran to take cover behind the back of the car, and just as I was getting around the corner to get behind the car, that's when my hand got hit. When I looked down at my hand, it just looked like a pile of hamburger meat. I mean, it was nothing but blood and skin. I wasn't even really sure if my fingers were still intact. It was hard to tell.
The machine gun is unrelenting, and Officer Thomas desperately tries to stay out of the line of fire.
When I took cover behind the cruiser, I looked at my hand and I said, "This is bad, this is really bad." And then I thought, well, we're in a shootout, so I need to fire back. So I grabbed my gun and returned fire at the suspect.
The suspect moves out into the street. Savage believes he's trying to get a better angle.
I was sitting in my front seat because the bullets were going down the side of my car. As he was moving out, I engaged him, started shooting through my front windshield.
Officer Savage empties an 18-bullet clip at the shooter, but the man keeps coming.
When you're shooting him and you're seeing the rounds hit him and he's still not going down, it definitely makes you a little nervous. When I shot my first 18 rounds and when he started coming back towards his vehicle, at that point he slumped over a little bit. That gave me enough time to get outside of my vehicle.
Yes! You cover, I'll call dispatch.
I reloaded my third magazine. I saw that the suspect was not going down.
Running out of ammo, Officer Savage gives up the cover of the car in order to get a better shot.
I was exposed as I was advancing towards him. He was still a threat, and I had to take the threat out. I was unloading as quickly as possible, as quick as my finger could pull the trigger. At that point, I saw him fall over on the ground and drop his weapon.
Send an ambulance, I'm hit. North State Street, just by the station.
I made sure that the suspect was down, that he was not moving.
As soon as the shootout was over, all I could hear were sirens in the background. It was the most beautiful sound I've ever heard.
Paramedics arrive on scene and rush to Officer Thomas.
The paramedic walked up to me, and she looked at me, and she looked at my hand, and all she said was, "Oh,
Hold on.
And then it was just chaos after that. That's when I really started to panic, because that's when the reality of the situation really started to set in. And at the same time, I'm also feeling this overwhelming sense of relief that it's over, and help is here and it's done, and we survived, and he didn't.
The suspect is later identified as 42-year-old James Gilkerson. When investigators search his car, they find a cache of weapons and anti-government literature. And that's not all.
Inside his trunk, the suspect had bomb-making materials. He had books on how to dispose of bodies, close quarter combat.
Despite yelling, "Kill me," police don't think Gilkerson planned on committing suicide by cop, based in part on the materials found in his car.
I think that we stopped the suspect from doing something. I think he was planning on doing a lot of harm to a lot of people.
Officer Thomas is treated for her gunshot wounds. Her hand is so badly damaged that doctors are forced to amputate her left index finger.
When I look down at my hand, I have a constant reminder of what we went through that day, and the pain never stops. But I always remind myself that it could have been a lot worse. And that's what gets me through it.
For Officer Savage, the incident leaves scars that are less visible.
It's something that I deal with on a daily basis, but I feel that if I go out and do my traffic stops and talk about it and not let him beat me by holding me back, it makes me feel a lot better and know that I can actually move on with my life and that I can conquer what happened.